There are 5 sinister data storytelling mistakes that will undo all of your hard work. Even if you spend hours crafting compelling data story, guess what? You could still leave people confused and unconvinced if you are doing any one of these 5 things. And the worst part is almost no one knows they're making them. They think they've made great progress at becoming a wonderful data storyteller, and maybe they have. But these mistakes cause their pitches to crash and burn. The huge enterprise deal doesn't go through. Execs are unconvinced by the pitch, or they're left wondering what went wrong. With hundreds of data storytelling workshops under our belts, we at Duarte can tell you it's always one of these 5 things. And I'm gonna make it so easy for you to avoid mistake number 4. You're probably gonna drop me a comment and thank me. Mistake number 1, 0 recommendation. Too many professionals believe the numbers will speak for themselves. They walk into that room. They have done their homework to prepare charts, trends, metrics, but there is no clear point of view. And here's the truth. Your data needs a North Star. We call it the data POV or a data point of view. It's not just a finding, it's a clear, actionable recommendation based on what the data is telling you. A data point of view has 2 main parts. 1, a problem or an opportunity that requires action. If you look at your data and you think, but this is just a number, then it is not worth presenting to anyone. What's more likely the case is that you spotted that data point because there was some problem or opportunity and it inspired you. So it is your job as the data storyteller to name the problem or opportunity. You have got to call it out. Then step 2, figure out what's at stake. Once you know the problem or opportunity, you have to think through what's at stake for the audience if they see it your way. What might they possibly gain? But you also think about what's at stake if they ignore you or your data. What if they don't believe in you? Okay, so there's some sort of negative stake, some sort of problem that happens in the data. Your audience needs to easily understand both parts, what you see, and then the benefits or the risks associated with it. Imagine a sales rep is showing a CFO that turnover increased 15% last quarter. That's just a finding. But a data POV would be, we recommend investing $200,000 in management training because exit interviews show poor leadership is causing a $1.2 million turnover. One of those is information. The other is a story with a direction and a financial implication. When you skip the work of formulating a data point of view, buyers walk away confused and frustrated. Leaders are unsure what to do next. And then you're the one left with some pretty heavy stakes. Mistake number 2, numbers over insights. Every single leader I meet with wants more data. They're investing in dashboards and analytics and proof points. Those are all smart business decisions because we need data to make decisions. But all of that has led to the most common mistake I see in decks, cramming in every metric, every customer proof point, every feature comparison, thinking, aha, more data, more credibility. But to an audience, it feels like they're drinking from a fire hose. They don't know which number matters more or what story is even in the data. Take this as an example. You send a prospect 30 slides packed with metrics. Revenue charts, adoption stats, customer logos, feature comparisons, all stacked up one after the other. Are they going to parse through it to figure out your point? No, they're not. Now compare that to a different approach. All the most important data and the meaning behind it is front and center. So instead of drowning in stats, the reader instantly knows what this number is about. It's not just a metric, it's an outcome. And outcomes are what move deals forward and get people to act. It's what helps marketers show not just a dashboard full of impressions and open rates, but the so what gives us the answer. We should keep doing this, stop doing this, or do more of this. Or with leaders who have spreadsheets and spreadsheets of data in their quarterly business reviews. All right, now they can stop and go, let me narrow it down so I can show you where we need to invest in more resources, where we need to invest less. I have found the insight. That is your job, especially in a data-heavy field. You don't want to dump information. It's that you want to highlight the insights that matter most. Because if you don't, every pitch or presentation, it is overwhelming and directionless, and that can stall everything. Mistake number 3, not tailoring data to the decision makers in the room. Even when presenters do highlight insights, they often present them in the same way to every stakeholder in the room. And that is just a big miss. Because while the number might stay the same, the meaning behind that number changes depending on who you're talking to. In sales, this matters a lot because more than ever, enterprise buying decisions rarely come down to just one person anymore. Deals often require a committee of 5, 6, sometimes 10 people who all have to give the nod of approval before moving forward. Each one of them is looking for something a little different in the data. They have their own lens that they're bringing to it. So there's a better approach that you can take. Let's say you have a data point like 20% productivity increase. Now, Frame it in language that matters most to each stakeholder. A head of operations might want to hear a 20% productivity increase means your teams can deliver projects weeks faster without adding headcount. That's faster time to market and more capacity to take on high priority initiatives. But an IT leader might want to hear this. For IT, a 20% productivity increase translates into fewer system failures and less firefighting. That means more time spent on innovation and less on costly support tickets. What about head of marketing? For marketing, 20% productivity isn't just an internal metric, it's a proof point that customers are actually adopting the solution. Faster workflows inside your organization mirror faster adoption outside for customers, which strengthens brand story. What about a buyer champion like an end user? For the person actually using the tool, a 20% productivity increase means the daily frustration goes away. What used to take an hour now takes 45 minutes. That is 15 minutes of focused time back for work that matters. And then it makes that person look like a hero to their boss. Every one of those had the same data point, but the story shifts depending on who's in the room. And that shift is what turns polite interest into a signed deal. Mistake 4, using cluttered, complex visuals. Here's another trap. I see it in decks all the time. Slides that look like they were exported straight from a dashboard. Multiple colors, 6 different data series, font sizes so small you need binoculars. The issue isn't about the amount of data, and it's not even about lacking insights. That was mistake number 2. The problem here is that the design itself is impossible to follow. No one can see the point. They're either going to misinterpret the number or assume you, the one who put this deck together, don't really understand it yourself. And that could cost you time, money, and credibility. And once someone loses confidence in your ability to present the data, they start losing confidence in everything else about you too. Let's look at this visual. Okay, it's fine. This is probably the type of slide you see all the time, or maybe it's even one that you're used to building. But what's the audience supposed to do with this? Are these good numbers? Are they bad numbers? What am I supposed to do next because of these numbers? I have no idea. And maybe you're saying, whoa, I present this slide, all right? I'll tell them what these numbers mean. Okay, sure. But then you just wasted an entire visual opportunity. Now, remember when I told you that it was mistake number 4 that I was going to make disappear from your life forever? Okay. Let me fix this. Look at that. Now that is a clear insight with the same data. We just called it out. And you can do the same because I am dropping a link in the comments to our free annotations toolkit. That's what I did. I annotated the slide. You use it to help you amplify or highlight data in a way that will really stick in the minds of your audience and tell them how you want them to feel about the data. Because your pitch deck or your pre-read or your leave behind, it's all prime real estate. And it should be immediately clear to the person looking at these visuals what you want them to think, feel, and do. And now, with the annotations kit, you can do that too. Mistake number 5, leaving out the emotional layer. Here is the mistake that surprises most leaders. They think that logic and data alone will persuade people. If only. Yes, decision makers expect evidence, but evidence only gets you so far. People don't make decisions on logic alone. They make decisions because of how something makes them feel confident, secure, excited, and sometimes how they feel if they fail, frustrated, at risk, left behind. The emotional angle is almost always there in your data. You just have to surface it. If churn increased 15%, well, that's not an emotion. That's just a number. It can be more though. It could be the frustration of managers losing people and having urgency to fix things before morale drops. If adoption hits 60%, the emotion isn't the percentage. It's the relief a customer feels when something has finally been automated and they get hours back in their week. If productivity jumps 20%, the emotion isn't math. It's the pride a team feels when they finally hit the deadline without burning out. So how do you find the emotion in the data? Once you have the data point, focus on the people. There are almost always people who generated the data. They know the why behind the data. So can you interview them? Can you read message boards? Can you conduct a survey? When you know the why behind the data and why it's showing up, you'll be able to form a more emotionally compelling story. There are also people who will be impacted by the data. How will they react? What do they stand to gain? What do they stand to lose? When you know more about these humans and their relationship to the data, you can add in that emotional layer. And then there's you. You are also a person. When you deliver the data, you have your own emotional reaction to it. I can't believe how much improvement we had in our customer satisfaction scores in just 3 months. Or, I will never let us fall behind on a goal like this again. This is unacceptable. Or, this pilot was a wild success. The data, it gives you credibility. The emotional angle gives you power. Because numbers might fade, people will always remember how you made them feel. Data doesn't sell by itself. Our brains aren't spreadsheets, they are story processors. And data only works when it's framed in a story that makes sense to your audience. So if you or your team is making any of these 5 data storytelling mistakes, you now know exactly how to stop them. Plus, you now have an annotations kit linked in the comments. And if you want to continue to learn how to make high stakes presentations land so you can close the deal and move leadership, watch this next video. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to keep getting the most out of all the hard work you are already putting into your research, presentations, and meetings. Bye for now.